why you'll never be happy if you keep lying to yourself. Alright, let's get real for a second. What if I told you that the reason you're not happy, truly happy, has nothing to do with your circumstances, your job, or your relationships? What if I told you that the real problem is you? More specifically, it's the lies you tell yourself every single day. Yeah, I know that sounds harsh, but stay with me. We're about to go deep here because this isn't just about feeling good for a moment. This is about understanding why you're stuck and why you'll never break free unless you confront the truth. The lies we tell ourselves are often so subtle, so well hidden, that we don't even recognize them as lies anymore. They become part of our identity. They shape how we see the world, how we interact with others, how we justify our failures, and even how we explain away our successes. But here's the thing: if your foundation is built on lies, it doesn't matter how beautiful the house looks from the outside, it's going to crumble eventually. And that's exactly what happens to your happiness when it's built on self-deception. Let's start with the simplest lie that almost everyone tells themselves: I'm fine. How many times have you said that when you weren't fine at all? When everything inside you was screaming, I'm not okay. But we say it anyway. We don't want to appear weak or vulnerable or like we don't have everything under control. But here's the kicker: every time you say I'm fine when you're not, you're pushing your real emotions further down, and eventually they're going to explode. You can't find happiness if you're constantly lying to yourself about how you feel. It's like trying to heal a wound by pretending it's not there. But it's not just about emotions, it's about the bigger lies we live by. Take, for example, the lie of I'll be happy when. This is a big one, and I know you've said it. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I lose 10 pounds. I'll be happy when I'm in a relationship. You fill in the blank. But here's the uncomfortable truth: if you're not happy now, you won't be happy when that thing happens either. Why? Because happiness doesn't come from external achievements. It comes from within. If you're relying on something outside of yourself to bring you happiness, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Even if you get that thing you're chasing, the happiness will be fleeting because you'll just move the goalposts. And then it'll be, I'll be happy when I get a better promotion, or I'll be happy when I find someone who loves me more. It's a never-ending cycle, and it's based on the lie that happiness is something you can achieve instead of something you cultivate.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let's go deeper. I don't have a choice. How many times have you told yourself that? I don't have a choice. I have to stay in this job. I don't have a choice. I have to follow this path because it's what's expected of me. This lie is incredibly dangerous because it strips you of your power. When you believe you don't have a choice, you become a victim of your circumstances rather than the creator of your life. But here's the philosophical truth: you always have a choice. Even when it feels like you're stuck, there's always a choice in how you respond to your situation. Viktor Frankl, a psychologist and Holocaust survivor, said, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." So, the question is, what choices are you lying to yourself about right now? Then there's the lie of I'm not good enough, or I'll never be enough. This is probably one of the most toxic lies we tell ourselves, and it's also one of the hardest to let go of because it's rooted in fear and insecurity. It's the voice inside your head that says, why even try? You're going to fail. It's the lie that stops you from going after your dreams or from believing that you deserve happiness in the first place. But here's the thing: you are enough. You always have been. The only person you need to convince of that is yourself. So why do we tell ourselves these lies? Why do we cling to them even when they're clearly making us miserable? It's because the truth is uncomfortable. It's easier to live in a comfortable lie than to face the discomfort of reality. But here's where the real wisdom comes in: growth only happens in discomfort. You can't evolve, you can't change, and you can't find true happiness if you're not willing to face the hard truths about yourself and your life. Now, here's a deep question for you. What lies are you telling yourself right now? Take a moment to really think about it. What's the story you've been telling yourself about why you're not happy, why you're not successful, or why you're not where you want to be? And more importantly, what would happen if you stopped telling that story? What if you faced the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might be? The fear behind the lies, why we choose comfort over truth. So, let's dig even deeper. Why do we lie to ourselves in the first place? Why do we choose to live in a world of comforting illusions rather than face the truth head-on? It's simple: we're afraid. Fear is the driving force behind almost every lie we tell ourselves. But fear isn't always obvious, it's sneaky. It disguises itself as rationalization, avoidance, and even self-protection. But at its core, fear is what keeps us stuck. Let's start with the fear of failure. This is one of the big reasons we lie to ourselves. We tell ourselves things like, "I'm not ready yet," or "it's not the right time," or "maybe next year I'll go after my dreams." But what are we really saying? We're saying, "I'm scared to fail." We think that if we don't try, then we can't fail, and if we can't fail, we can't feel the pain of disappointment. But here's the philosophical paradox: by not trying, you're already failing. You're failing to live authentically. You're failing to give yourself the chance to grow, to learn, to evolve. The truth is, failure is part of life. It's not something to be avoided, it's something to be embraced. As the philosopher Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." Now, let's talk about the fear of judgment. This one is huge. We lie to ourselves because we're afraid of what other people will think. We tell ourselves, "I'm happy with my life the way it is," or "I don't need to change," because deep down, we're terrified of being judged for wanting more. Maybe it's judgment from our family, our friends, or even society at large. We fear that if we step out of the box, if we dare to be different, people will criticize or reject us. But here's a question you need to ask yourself: whose life are you living, yours or someone else's? Are you making decisions based on your own dreams and values, or are you making them based on what you think will get you approval from others? This brings us to the fear of change. Change is uncomfortable, it's uncertain, and humans, by nature, crave stability. We want to feel like we're in control, like we know what's coming next. So we lie to ourselves to maintain the illusion of control. We tell ourselves, "I'm okay where I am," because the thought of stepping into the unknown is terrifying. But here's the truth: nothing grows in comfort. If you stay where you are, if you keep lying to yourself about being content with mediocrity, you'll never experience the kind of transformation that leads to true happiness. So, ask yourself, what are you sacrificing by staying in your comfort zone? Here's the thing about fear: it's always going to be there. You can't eliminate fear, but you can choose whether or not you let it control your life. The real problem isn't fear itself, it's how we react to it. Most of us react to fear by lying to ourselves, "I can't do that, I'm not good enough, it's too late for me." But what if, instead of lying to yourself, you confronted your fear head-on? What if you said, "Yes, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway"? Here's a deep question for you: what would your life look like if you weren't afraid? Think about that for a moment. If fear wasn't holding you back, what would you be doing differently? What dreams would you be pursuing? What lies would you stop telling yourself? That's the life that's waiting for you on the other side of fear. But to get there, you have to be willing to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. The cost of self-deception: how lies erode your happiness over time. Let's talk about the real cost of lying to yourself. It's easy to think that self-deception only affects you in the moment, but the truth is, it compounds over time. Every lie you tell yourself, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, slowly erodes your happiness. It's like a silent thief, stealing your potential, your peace of mind, and your ability to truly connect with yourself and others. But here's the tricky part: because the damage happens gradually, we don't always notice it until it's too late. Start by considering this: what happens when you build your life on a foundation of lies? Take a lie like, "I'm okay with where I am," or "I'm happy with this job," when deep down, you know you're not. Maybe you lie because you're afraid of the uncertainty that comes with pursuing something different. Maybe you lie because you don't want to disrupt the stability you've built, but in doing so, you're constructing a life that's out of alignment with who you really are. And when your life is out of alignment, you can't feel fulfilled. There's always this nagging, underlying sense that something's missing, that you're not really living your truth. Here's where it gets even deeper: the more you lie to yourself, the harder it becomes to recognize the truth. It's like a snowball effect. You start with one small lie, maybe about your happiness, your goals, or your identity, and over time, that lie grows. But it becomes harder to distinguish where the lie ends and where the truth begins. You become so used to the story you've been telling yourself that it feels real. But it's not. And eventually you find yourself trapped in a life that doesn't feel authentic, but you can't quite figure out why. Think about this: what would happen if you stopped pretending? Stopped pretending that you're happy in a relationship that's not fulfilling. Stopped pretending that your career is your passion when it's not. Stop pretending that you're okay with mediocrity when you know you're capable of more. Sure, the truth might hurt at first, but the pain of living a lie is far worse. It's slow and it's suffocating. And here's the philosophical kicker: you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. If you keep lying to yourself, you'll never be able to address the real issues that are holding you back from happiness. The ancient Greeks had a concept called Athia, which means truth or unconcealment. They believed that truth was not just about facts, but about revealing something that had been hidden. When you stop lying to yourself, you're practicing Athia. You're revealing parts of yourself that have been concealed, sometimes even from your own consciousness. But here's the thing: truth is liberating. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also the only path to real freedom. When you start living in truth, you stop wasting energy on maintaining a facade. You stop pretending and you start living. Let's get practical for a moment. How do these self-lies impact your day-to-day happiness? One of the most significant ways is through cognitive dissonance. This is the mental and emotional tension that occurs when your actions are out of alignment with your beliefs or values. For example, if you value creativity but work a job that stifles it, you'll feel a constant undercurrent of dissatisfaction, even if you can't quite put your finger on it. Every decision you make that contradicts your inner truth creates this dissonance, and over time, it drains your energy, your motivation, and your joy. But here's the empowering part: you can choose to stop. You can choose to stop lying to yourself today. It won't be easy, and it won't be instant, but it will be worth it. It starts with small steps: being honest about what you really want, about where you've been settling, about the fears that are holding you back, and each step brings you closer to a life that feels authentic. So, here's a question for you: what's one truth you've been avoiding? What's one area of your life where you've been lying to yourself because the truth feels too hard to face? Whatever your answer is, that's exactly where you need to start. Because on the other side of that truth is the happiness you've been looking for. Embracing radical honesty, the path to true happiness. Now that we've explored the cost of self-deception and the lies we tell ourselves, it's time to talk about the solution: radical honesty. This isn't just about telling the truth to others, it's about telling the truth to yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it hurts. Because the reality is, you will never be happy, truly happy, if you keep lying to yourself. But what does radical honesty look like in practice? And how can it transform your life? Let's start with the basics. What is radical honesty? It's the willingness to face reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. It's refusing to sugarcoat the truth or avoid it because it's inconvenient. It's about looking at your life, your relationships, your career, your habits, your goals, and asking hard questions. Questions like, am I really satisfied with where I am? Am I living the life I want to live, or the life others expect me to live? Am I being true to myself, or am I hiding behind a mask of who I think I should be? Radical honesty, the path to true happiness. Now that we've explored the cost of self-deception and the lies we tell ourselves, it's time to talk about the solution: radical honesty. This isn't just about telling the truth to others, it's about telling the truth to yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it hurts. Because the reality is, you will never be happy, truly happy, if you keep lying to yourself. But what does radical honesty look like in practice? And how can it transform your life? Let's start with the basics. What is radical honesty? It's the willingness to face reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. It's refusing to sugarcoat the truth or avoid it because it's inconvenient. It's about looking at your life, your relationships, your career, your habits, your goals, and asking hard questions. Questions like, am I really satisfied with where I am? Am I living the life I want to live, or the life others expect me to live? Am I being true to myself, or am I hiding behind a mask of who I think I should be? This brings us to a crucial point. Radical honesty doesn't just mean acknowledging where you've been lying to yourself, it also means being honest about what you really want. So often we suppress our deepest desires because they feel too risky, too unrealistic, or too different from what others expect of us. But here's a profound question to consider: what do you really want? Not what you think you should want, not what society tells you to want, but what you want at the core of your being. When was the last time you were truly honest with yourself about that? Here's the transformative part of radical honesty. Once you stop lying to yourself about what you want, you can start moving toward it. You can begin to take action that aligns with your true desires, rather than actions that serve a false self. And when your actions align with your truth, that's when fulfillment happens. That's when happiness isn't a fleeting emotion but a lasting state of being. But let's be clear, radical honesty is not easy. It will challenge you. It might mean making difficult decisions, like leaving a job that no longer serves you or ending a relationship that's built on convenience instead of love. It might mean confronting parts of yourself that you've been avoiding for years. But here's the thing, it's worth it. Every uncomfortable truth you face brings you closer to living a life that feels real, a life that feels like yours. And here's the final truth: happiness isn't something you stumble upon, it's something you create through honesty, choice, and courage. It's the result of living in alignment with who you are, not who you think you should be. It's the reward for facing the truth, no matter how hard it might be, and taking responsibility for what comes next. So here's one last question for you. If you committed to radical honesty, how would your life change? Imagine waking up every day and knowing that you're living your truth, that you're no longer hiding behind lies or excuses. Imagine the freedom, the lightness, the joy that would come from being fully, unapologetically yourself. That's the kind of happiness that lasts. That's the kind of happiness that's real. And it all starts with one decision: stop lying to yourself and start living your truth. Thank you for joining me in this journey. Now, the question is, are you ready to embrace the truth?